There you have it. Lake Fulmor, California, in the San Jacinto Mountains. It's not an overly large lake, as you can see. It's actually more like an extra large pond. It's not nearly as large as Lake Hemet, the other lake in the San Jacintos, but it's a nice little lake. You know, it's quiet for the most part, even though there's a ton of people here today, of course, because it's a nice day. The weather is so nice, so all the fishermen and the walkers and the bird watchers and everyone else are out here today. So we don't have this little secluded spot that I was hoping to have, but that's okay. It's still nice to be out here. Brenda's enjoying herself. But yeah, you know, I wanted to take a drive up here. I haven't actually been up here in years. So I've been wanting to come up here. So this is Lake Fulmor. This lake has been here since basically 1947 when there's a creek that runs through here called Indian Creek, and they dammed that creek in 1947 to create this little reservoir. And basically the reservoir was up and running by 1948. It was full, and basically at that point it was an actual lake in 1948. And the reason they created this reservoir is because they were constructing Highway 243, which is the highway that runs between Banning, California and Mountain Center, which basically takes you into Idyllwild. So as they were constructing Highway 243, they ended up damming Indian Creek because I guess the creek was in the way of the highway construction. So they ended up putting a dam on the creek, and then they just created this reservoir. And from the research that I read, this was basically created just to make the highway construction easier, you know, to make it easier to put in the road and to construct the road through this particular area. So a little back history there for you. They have a nice little fishing platform out there, as you can see, which is kind of nice. There's quite a few families over there fishing, so we didn't walk out there. But if you ever come up here alone and the place is empty, that's a nice little platform to set up shop and toss your line into the water. Brenda's looking for some amphibian activity down here, I guess. And the lake itself looks pretty decent. It's not as clear as Lake Hemet Lake, but the water isn't bad. And just to give you a better look of the shoreline, this is basically the far end of the lake. This is the east end of the lake where we walked around. And then, you know, there's a fairly good sized picnic area that runs along the north edge of the lake. And it runs back behind that fishing platform, and then, you know, you can hear the motorcycles over there on Highway 243, but they have a nice little walkway that goes all the way around the lake. And then there's as I said, there's the little picnic area. And, you know, it's a nice place, nice quiet place to be. Whether you want to come up here and go fishing, or you just want to come up here for some solitude, maybe sit under a tree and meditate or something like that. Work on your poetry, work on your painting. Brenda, what do you see? What's up there, girl? What's up there? Where's the squirrel? Where's the squirrel? Go get him. Here's the little walkway that basically encircles the lake. Nice little hiking path. I wish I could let Brenda run freely, but I can't do that. There's too many people here. That's what you get for living in sunny Southern California, where you have these nice, beautiful, almost winter days, plenty of sunshine. So all the little recreational areas out here are pretty much going to be full, at least on the weekends. But as you can see, it's a heavily forested area. This little lake is located in a small little valley. And then you have the higher country that runs out to the east, Mount San Jacinto and the higher slopes. But yeah, this little valley sits in a nice little secluded glen surrounded by cedar. There's quite a few cedar trees up here. There's Of course, pine trees, some oak trees, spruce. And you know what? The U.S. Forest Service back in 1980, they planted a giant sequoia tree up here, a sapling. They planted a giant sequoia tree sapling back in 1980. And since then, that initial sapling has propagated, and there's now 6 giant sequoia trees growing up here. And they are over by the picnic area, supposedly. I don't know exactly where they are yet, but it's kind of interesting to know there's 6 giant sequoia trees now growing up in this area. We're going to segue down this little walking path here. There's a giant rock right on the edge of the lake up here, and people used to come up here and jump off this rock all the time when they wanted to go swimming in the lake. And I'm sure they still do that, even though they don't encourage swimming in this lake due to the water quality, I guess, isn't always as pristine as you would want it to be, especially if you wanted to go swimming in it. So just a little disclaimer. And there you have it. Just like Morro Bay rock in Morro Bay. Not really. But yeah, if you ever want to come swimming and you don't mind maybe jumping into water that may not be as pristine as you want it to be, feel free to come over here and just jump right into the lake. I've been up here numerous times and I've seen quite a few people doing their little acrobatic moves off this rock into the water. And the water doesn't look dirty at all, but I mean, you know, just in terms of the testing that they do, you know, in terms of just analyzing the particulates that may be in the water at a particular time, it may not be as pristine as you would want it to be, but the water isn't necessarily dirty. And here you can see the highway in relation to the lake. The highway, it's just basically right next to the lake. So it's not always as peaceful here, just depending on how much traffic happens to be driving up here on a particular day. Okay, we're at the very western edge of the lake, right next to the highway, just to give you a better view. The lake sits at about 5,300 feet elevation, so it's about the same elevation as Idyllwild. Idyllwild's about probably 10 miles from here. Yeah, but the fishermen are out in force today. You can't really see them from this point, but they're all over the lake today. And there's a little bit of ice floating on the lake, because it gets pretty cold up here, especially at night. But you can see some fringes of ice along the edges. And I guess Brenda's in the need for a bath right now, so she's taking matters into her own hands, right, girl? But yeah, there's a lot of foliage, a lot of plants, and a lot of reeds along the shoreline, which makes for a nice little fish habitat. And they do regularly they stock this lake regularly with rainbow trout. But that's pretty much it. This is Lake Fulmor. Not a very large lake, but it's a nice little spot nonetheless.